My name is Sophia, and this is the story of how my world crumbled and how I rebuilt it, piece by piece, with a vengeance that was as sharp as it was silent. I'm a 34-year-old marketing director in Chicago, a city that hums with ambition and secrets. I've always been the type to pour my heart into everything, my career, my relationships, my dreams. But I learned the hard way that not everyone plays by the same rules. This is the story of my betrayal, my heartbreak, and the revenge that set me free. I'd spent a decade climbing the corporate ladder, working late nights and weekends to secure my position at a top-tier marketing firm. My office overlooked Lake Michigan, the water shimmering like a promise of something eternal. I loved my job, crafting campaigns that told stories, connecting brands to people's hearts. But more than that, I loved my life with my best friend, Emma. Emma and I met in college, bonding over late-night study sessions and cheap coffee. She was the yin to my yang, where I was driven and meticulous. She was spontaneous and charming. After graduation, we moved to Chicago together, sharing a cramped apartment until we could afford our own places. Even as our lives grew busier, we stayed close. Weekly brunches at the Bongo Room, movie nights in my cozy Lincoln Park apartment, and endless texts about everything from work drama to dating woes. Emma was family, the sister I never had. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, her creativity a perfect complement to my strategic mind. We even collaborated on projects sometimes, her designs bringing my campaigns to life. I trusted her implicitly, sharing every detail of my life, my fears, my hopes, even my finances. That trust, I thought, was unbreakable. It was a crisp October morning when my world began to unravel. I'd been working on a massive campaign for a new client, an eco-friendly fashion brand called Green Thread. It was my biggest project yet, the kind that could catapult my career to the next level. I'd poured 6 months into it, designing a pitch that blended sustainability with emotional storytelling. The client loved it, and the launch was set for the following month. Emma had been a part of the project too, creating the visuals, a stunning array of logos, social media graphics, and a sleek website design. We'd spent countless nights at my apartment, brainstorming over glasses of Pinot Noir, laughing about how we'd take over the world with this campaign. I was proud of us, proud of her, but something felt off in the weeks leading up to the launch. Emma was distant, canceling our brunches with vague excuses about deadlines. When I asked about her work on Green Thread, she'd brush it off, saying it was all good. I chalked it up to stress. Freelancing wasn't easy, and I knew she was juggling multiple clients. Still, a nagging feeling lingered, like a splinter I couldn't quite reach. The truth hit me like a freight train at the worst possible moment. I was in a meeting with Green Thread's CEO, presenting the final campaign materials. My laptop was connected to the conference room's projector, displaying Emma's designs. The CEO, a sharp woman named Claire, leaned forward, her brow furrowing. "Sophia, these designs, they're identical to a campaign I saw pitched last week by another firm," she said, her voice laced with suspicion. My stomach dropped. "That's impossible," I stammered, clicking through the slides. "These were custom-made by my designer, Emma." Claire pulled out her phone and showed me an email from a rival firm, Apex Marketing. Attached were mock-ups for their own eco-fashion campaign, logos, graphics, even a website layout that mirrored Emma's work for Green Thread. The timestamps showed they'd pitched it days before. My heart pounded as I realized what this meant: someone had stolen our work. And there was only one person who could have done it. I excused myself from the meeting, my hands trembling as I called Emma. She didn't answer. I texted her, my fingers fumbling, "We need to talk now." No response. By the time I got back to my apartment, my mind was a storm of betrayal and disbelief. Emma, my best friend, had sold our work to a competitor. She'd taken the designs we'd created together and handed them to Apex, jeopardizing my career and our friendship in one brutal stroke. I spent that night on my couch, staring at the city skyline through my window. The lights of Chicago twinkled like they always did, but they felt mocking now, a reminder of everything I'd lost. Green Thread pulled out of the deal, citing concerns over intellectual property disputes. My boss was furious, warning that my reputation was on the line. But worse than the professional fallout was the personal one. Emma had been my rock, my confidant. How could she do this? I finally got through to her the next day. She answered with a breezy "Hey, Soph," as if nothing was wrong. I didn't hold back. "Why, Emma?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Why did you sell our work to Apex?" There was a long pause, then a sigh. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said, her tone defensive. "Apex offered me a full-time gig with benefits. Something I've been struggling to find. They wanted a sample of my work, so I shared the green thread designs. I didn't think they'd use them." "You didn't think?" I snapped. "You stole my campaign, Emma. You betrayed me. I'm sorry, okay?" she said, but there was no real remorse in her voice. "I needed this. You're doing fine, Sophia. You'll land another client." I had to look out for myself. That was it. No accountability, no regret. Just a selfish justification for shattering my trust. I hung up, tears streaming down my face. I felt like a fool, not just for trusting her but for believing our friendship was sacred. I was alone, my heart a battlefield of anger and grief. For weeks, I was a ghost of myself. I went through the motions at work, salvaging what I could of my reputation. But inside, I was burning. Anger became my fuel, not the reckless kind that destroys but the quiet, focused kind that builds. I wasn't going to let Emma walk away unscathed. She'd taken something from me, my trust, my pride, my career's momentum, and I was going to make sure she faced the consequences. Violence wasn't my style, and it wouldn't satisfy me anyway. I wanted something smarter, something that would hit Emma where it hurt, her reputation, her ego, her future. I started by digging. I spent nights at my kitchen table, my laptop glowing as I pieced together her betrayal. I contacted Claire at Green Thread, apologizing profusely and asking for any details about Apex's pitch. She was sympathetic, sharing that Apex's campaign had launched, using Emma's designs, and was gaining traction. I also reached out to a friend in the industry, a tech-savvy guy named Marcus who owed me a favor. He helped me trace Emma's digital footprint. It wasn't hard to find evidence. She'd emailed the Green Thread designs to an Apex executive from her personal account, timestamped weeks before their pitch. She'd also posted on a freelance forum, boasting about landing a game-changing job at Apex by leveraging some old work. The arrogance of it made my blood boil. But the real breakthrough came when I remembered something Emma had told me years ago. She'd been sloppy with contracts early in her career, often reusing assets without permission. I wondered if she'd done the same at Apex. I dug into her portfolio, cross-referencing her past projects with the Green Thread designs. Sure enough, I found overlaps, elements she'd recycled from a small client we'd worked with years ago, a boutique called Earthware. The contract with Earthware explicitly stated that all designs remained their property. Emma had no right to reuse or sell them. This was my weapon. Not a fist, not a scream, but the truth, sharpened to a point. My plan was meticulous, designed to expose Emma without dragging me into the mud. I started by contacting Earthware's owner, a kind woman named Lila. I explained the situation, showing her the designs Emma had reused for Green Thread and sold to Apex. Lila was furious, confirming that Emma had violated their contract. She agreed to pursue legal action but wanted to keep it discreet to avoid bad press. I offered a better idea. I proposed a public exposé, not through a lawsuit but through the industry's most powerful weapon, buzz. I'd spent years building connections in Chicago's marketing scene, and I knew how to make a story stick. I crafted an anonymous tip, detailing Emma's theft and her betrayal of both Earthware and Green Thread. I included screenshots of her emails, the forum post, and a side-by-side comparison of the designs. The tip was sent to a popular industry blog, Marketing Insider, known for its juicy scoops. But I didn't stop there. I wanted Emma to feel the weight of her actions in real time. I learned that Apex was hosting a launch party for their campaign at a swanky downtown venue, the Drake Hotel. Emma would be there, basking in her stolen glory. I reached out to Claire at Green Thread, inviting her to the event as my guest. I also tipped off Lila, who agreed to attend and confront Apex's team about the stolen designs. The night of the party, I dressed in a sleek black dress, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and anticipation. The Drake's ballroom was dazzling, all crystal chandeliers and clinking glasses. I spotted Emma across the room, laughing with Apex's executives, her confidence a slap in the face. Claire and Lila arrived, and we moved like chess pieces, each playing our part. Lila approached Apex's CEO during a toast, her voice calm but firm. "I'm curious," she said. The room went silent. Emma's face paled as Lila presented her evidence, a printed contract and design comparisons. Claire chimed in, revealing that the same designs had been pitched to Green Thread, exposing Emma's double dealing. I stayed in the background, watching as Emma stammered, her excuses unraveling. Apex's team was mortified, promising to investigate. The blog post from Marketing Insider dropped online halfway through the event, going viral among the attendees' phones. By the end of the night, Emma's reputation was in tatters. Emma was fired from Apex the next day. The blog post sparked a wider conversation about ethics in freelancing, and her name became a cautionary tale. Earthware pursued a settlement, forcing her to pay damages. She tried reaching out to me, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to accusatory, but I didn't respond. I'd said all I needed to through my actions. Professionally, I bounced back. Claire gave me another shot with Green Thread, impressed by my integrity. I redesigned the campaign from scratch, and it launched to rave reviews. My apartment, once a place of heartbreak, became my sanctuary again, filled with new memories of friends who truly valued me. Emotionally, the scars lingered, but they made me stronger. I learned to guard my trust, not out of fear but out of self-respect. I found new connections, people like Marcus and Lila, who reminded me that loyalty still exists. Chicago's skyline no longer mocked me, it inspired me, a reminder that I could rebuild anything. Even myself. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my worth. Emma's betrayal taught me that trust is precious, but it's not the end of the story. Resilience is. When someone breaks your trust, you don't have to break in return. You can rise, sharper and wiser, and show the world, and yourself, what you're made of. If you're out there, listening to my story, know this: your heart may get bruised, but it's yours to protect. And when you stand up for yourself, with clarity and cunning, you're not just getting even, you're getting whole. The weeks following the exposé were a whirlwind of transformation, not just for my career but for my entire outlook on life. I began to see Chicago differently, its towering skyscrapers no longer looming threats but beacons of possibility. I started journaling, something I hadn't done since college, pouring my thoughts onto the page as a way to process the betrayal and my response to it. Each entry felt like a brick in the foundation of a new Sophia, one who was no longer naive but not cynical either. A woman who could balance trust with discernment. At work, I threw myself into new projects with a renewed sense of purpose. The Green Thread campaign's success had restored my reputation, and I was offered a promotion to senior director, a role that came with more responsibility and a corner office with an even better view of the lake. I accepted, not just for the title but for the chance to mentor younger marketers, to teach them the importance of integrity in an industry that could sometimes feel cutthroat. I also started attending industry events again, something I'd avoided in the immediate aftermath of Emma's betrayal. At one such event, a panel discussion on ethical marketing, I met a woman named Priya, a data analyst with a sharp wit and a passion for sustainability. We bonded over our shared love of Chicago's food scene and soon became friends, meeting for coffee at local spots like Intelligentsia or grabbing tacos at Big Star. Priya was a breath of fresh air, someone who valued honesty and didn't play games. Our friendship grew organically, without the weight of past betrayals, and it reminded me that not every connection was doomed to end in pain. Marcus, my tech-savvy ally, also became a closer friend. We collaborated on a pro bono campaign for a local nonprofit, using our combined skills to raise awareness for affordable housing. Working with him was a reminder of how collaboration could be joyful when built on mutual respect. He'd joke about my detective skills during the Emma takedown, but he also admired my restraint, how I'd chosen a path of calculated justice over petty vengeance. Lila, too, stayed in touch. She invited me to speak at a small business conference about intellectual property protection, an opportunity that allowed me to share my story, without naming Emma, and help others avoid similar pitfalls. The experience was cathartic, turning my pain into a tool for empowerment. I began to see my ordeal not as a wound but as a badge of resilience, proof that I could face betrayal and come out stronger. On the personal front, I made changes to my routine. I joined a yoga studio in Lincoln Park, finding solace in the quiet strength of each pose. The classes became a space to reconnect with my body and mind, to let go of the anger that had fueled me for so long. I also started exploring Chicago's cultural scene, visiting the Art Institute on free admission nights and catching live jazz at the Green Mill. These moments of discovery felt like reclaiming pieces of myself that I'd lost in the chaos of Emma's betrayal. One evening, as I walked along the lakefront trail, the city's skyline glowing against the twilight, I reflected on how far I'd come. The pain of Emma's actions hadn't disappeared, but it no longer defined me. I thought about the moral of my story, the lesson I'd carry forward, that resilience isn't about avoiding hurt but about what you do with it. I'd taken my hurt and forged it into something powerful, a testament to my worth. I also began to forgive, not Emma, necessarily, but myself. I forgave the part of me that had trusted too easily, that had missed the signs of her dishonesty. That forgiveness was liberating, allowing me to move forward without the weight of self-blame. I realized that trust, when given to the right people, was still a beautiful thing. It was a risk worth taking, as long as I held onto my own strength. As winter settled over Chicago, blanketing the city in snow, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. My apartment was warm with the glow of string lights. And I hosted a small holiday party for my new circle of friends, Priya, Marcus, Lila, and a few colleagues. We laughed over mulled wine and shared stories of our triumphs and failures, the kind of honest connection that felt like home. Emma's name rarely came up anymore, and when it did, it was with a shrug, a footnote in a story that was now about my growth. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved to another city, struggling to rebuild her career. I didn't wish her ill, but I didn't pity her either. She'd made her choices, and I'd made mine. Chicago, with its relentless energy, continued to be my backdrop. The city had witnessed my lowest moments and my greatest triumphs, its streets and skyline a constant reminder of my capacity to endure. I was no longer the Sophia who'd trusted blindly, nor the one who'd burned with vengeance. I was someone new, someone whole, shaped by betrayal but defined by resilience. To anyone reading this, know that your story isn't over when someone betrays you. It's just beginning. You have the power to rebuild, to reclaim, to rise. And when you do, you'll find that the view from the top, whether it's a corner office or a quiet moment of self-acceptance, is worth every step.